Well, it's time for another Hot Air Sports podcast with me, Macca, and me mate Mahona. And Aaron Judge is just going stupid at the moment with the bat.
Yeah, mate, but the crowd's not going wild, is it? The crowd's not going wild. It's just weird. Just cancel American sports, mate. COVID's got it by the scruff of the neck, and nah.
I had to laugh on Sunday. I was watching the Fox game, which was Yankees Red Sox, and the Fox had put in a simulated crowd, so they just grabbed shots of a crowd from any old game, and then when Judge launched one of his bombs, everybody just sort of sat there like nothing had happened. It was quite bizarre because the first shot I came in sort of a few innings in, so I didn't see the whole setup or explanation of why there was crowds in the stands. But and then suddenly the ball went down the third baseline, and I'm like, "Hey, there's people there. What's going on here?"
Have you seen any of the NBA?
I just saw a couple of news highlights. That was it.
Really interesting the way that they've done the video wall with all the supporters along the side. Of course, basketball sort of lends itself to be shot lower, so it lends itself to a little bit better. But the coverage of it is quite cool. It actually seems like, and then they've petitioned off where the commentators are, and then there's just all the way around. There's spectators watching the game, and it looks really good. Really good. So,
but yeah, Major League Baseball is underway. They're been going for about a week and a half now, and the Yankees have stormed out to a hell of a lead. They're 7-1 after 8 games, and Aaron Judge has got home runs in 6 of those games. The last 5 consecutively. Got 2 yesterday in a game against in the series finale at Yankee Stadium against the evil Boston Red Sox, and going into
the wrong way around.
Going into the bottom of the 8th, the Yankees were down by 3 runs, and after an early run in the bottom of the 8th, Judge launched another solar shot into the bleachers in left field, and 2-run home run, winning the game for the Yankees after they disposed of the Red Sox in the final half inning. So they're sitting well on top of the American League East with a 2-game lead over Baltimore, of all teams, which is quite incredible given they lost over 100 games last year. The Blue Jays are next, then Tampa Bay, and poor Boston Red Sox, bottom of the American League East. In the Central, Minnesota Twins.
There's a hell of a long way to go, Macca. It's 160. Hang on.
So 60-game sprint. 60-game sprint. Minnesota leading the way in the American League Central, 2 games ahead of the Chicago White Sox. Another surprise. In the West, no surprises there. Houston are leading the way. They're even with the Oakland A's at the moment, with Seattle, Texas, and the Angels struggling. In the National League, Chicago Cubs, wearing the Cubs today. Got the Cubs on today.
Make up your mind who you support, mate. Make up your mind.
Fond memories of Wrigley Field and days gone by. They lead the Central. They're 2.5 games of Milwaukee. Atlanta lead the East by, I'm going to say, 2.5 games over Washington, because Miami's still only played 3 games. So you can't really take their record into account. The Mets are struggling again. They're 3-7. And in the National League West, Colorado Rockies, even on games with the Los Angeles Dodgers, but just slightly ahead on percentage points. So a good battle ensuing in the West there. Unfortunately, the Arizona Diamondbacks have not got off to such a great start. They're 3-7. But as I said, Aaron Judge just unbelievable at the moment, and even Giancarlo Stanton is joining the club as well. He's if those two can stay fit throughout the whole season, I think the Yankees will be tough to beat. And that's not
crazy powerful.
That's not just my heart talking; that's my head talking as well. And of course, the Houston Astros batters have been struggling, fearful of pitches flying at their heads and backs and hips, and everybody's seeking retribution. And poor old Joe Kelly from the Dodgers last week got fined 8 games, suspended for 8 games, and he didn't even hit anybody.
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different when you don't know what pitch has been thrown, eh? Yeah.
The commentators were alluding to a video that came out of Joe Kelly practicing his a new pitch during the COVID break, and it flew off in one direction, missed the back net completely, and smashed a window in his house. So they said, well, he's shown that he's a bit wild.
Oh, backyard baseball by the sound of it.
Absolutely, or bush league as they call it over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much the baseball at the moment. As you said, the basketball is underway now, and I think hockey is.
Yep. That's just starting. Now. I think it was yesterday it kicked off. In the basketball, the Lakers are going crazy. Shorter season once again. So of course the teams with the bigger stars on their roster are going to be sort of probably expected to do a little bit better. The story in the NBA though. That I've been watching is the Houston side. Man, they can score a lot of points, but they can get scored against. I saw a game the other day, and it was like 140 to 150. It's ridiculous. Nearly 300 points in a game of basketball. And, they just can't. I mean, they've got two of the greatest scorers in Harden and who's the other guy that used to play with Stephen Adams in OKC? Not Durant. Russell Westbrook. Two of those absolutely fantastic starting scorers, so just two of the biggest scorers in the NBA, and but they just don't have any defense. So I just don't know how well they're going to do. It looks like the Lakers for me. The Lakers are odds on. I mean, they're just awesome.
Well, the Rockets had quite an incredible game yesterday. I saw the news last night. They missed 40 three-point attempts, yet still beat the Milwaukee Bucks by 115 to 113. How can you miss 40 three-point shots and still win a game?
It's crazy, eh? The way the basketball is going now, three-point shots. I mean, Steph Curry changed the game, didn't he? And three-point shots are just the way to go. I mean, back in the day, but back when we used to watch in the 80s and the 90s, when I used to, the Lakers and the Celtics and the glory days of the NBA for me, you'd be lucky if you got 40 three-point attempts during a season. To get 40 attempts in one game is just bloody ridiculous. The game has changed, and defense. I heard Shaquille O'Neal talking about it the other day. He was just like, "It's just not the same game." It's he's not happy. There's not a lot of defense being played. It is a different game. It's a bit like the soccer football. You touch anyone, they fall over. It's a penalty. So it's a little bit like that in basketball as well. It's all about the offense, and it's just so fast. The game has just gone so fast now that just fouls and three-point shots. It's just a lot more technical and a lot quicker. But it's good to watch. I mean, it's something to watch, I suppose. It's just not the same,
It's a lot like other sports, not just football. I mean, you look at the difference in rugby now.
Absolutely.
It was, you look at when Murray Mexted was playing in the late 70s, early 80s. He was a number 8. He was 89 kilos, and he was considered a big man in rugby. I mean, poor old Andy Hayden, who just passed away, he was a big man in rugby, and he was only 100.
He was. I know. The weight of the players, especially, has gone completely. And like you say, the type of sport has just changed. I mean, and you can't always say for the better. You can't always say that. I mean, I know the technicalities, of course. A lot of it's televised now, so a lot of it's for sport, and people can see the errors a lot clearer. So they want, I want to make sure that these obvious errors are taken away. But often when you hyper-analyze it with video replays, you get other problems. You find other problems, and it takes away from the impulsivity of the sport and the reactions of the player when something happens. So I'm not sure I'm all for it, but anyway, that's just the way things are going.
Yeah, well, and I mean, another sport that's like that is tennis. I mean, very rarely now do you see the long rallies, especially in the men's game, that you used to in, back in the 70s and 80s when the likes of Bjorn Borg, Stefan Edberg, John McEnroe, all those guys were around, Jimmy Connors. Now guys with big serves.
Big rackets.
They just are so much stronger. And it's all about the ace,
Yeah, power game, eh? It's all about
Power game.
And then you look at something like golf, where Deschambault's hitting the ball like 400 meters now. It's like ridiculous. He's built himself up. He's 20 kgs heavier than what he was, or 15 kgs heavier than what he was a year or two ago, and he is just smoking it. And I mean, he's driving par fives. You know, it's just I don't know, mate. I'm just an old man myself. I long for the old days, mate, the glory days. Shall we go to something closer to home? Should we go to rugby or rugby league? Should we talk about rugby?
Let's start off with the rugby league and the Warriors. The mighty Vodafone Warriors had a win.
Get in, mate. Get in. A great win, actually. A great win. We beat the Tigers. The Tigers 20-26. Penrith, Parramatta, and Melbourne continued their winning ways. They're in the top three rungs ahead of the Roosters, Raiders, and Cronulla were the big movers. They've risen to sixth after their dramatic win over Brisbane on Friday. They were about 15 points behind with 12 minutes to play, or 16 points behind with 12 minutes to play, and ended up going bang, 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 bang. And the Broncos just cannot buy a trick at the moment. I think the Sharks are now 5 from 6, and they've raced up to 6th on the table. And of course, the Warriors, great win against the Tigers. They trailed by 6 points at half time, but the two pieces of brilliance from Peter Hiku on the left edge pushed them ahead 20-14 after an hour, and then another try to Tohu Harris sealed the result for Todd Payton's men 4 minutes later. They snapped a 3-game losing streak in the process of a difficult month that included losing all those players. Of course, David Vusatua, Kim Mamalo, and Ignatius Parsi didn't play. Parramatta winger George Jennings deputised on the left edge. He looked good, solid, didn't do a hell of a lot. Eels teammate Daniel Alvaro and Penrith lone prop, who I love this guy, Jack Hetherington. He's just a beast of a man, a real sort of old-fashioned prop. Provided much-needed power in the middle. Unfortunately, it's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back for the Warriors. Interim coach Todd Payton has revealed that he's turned down the permanent role, which is quite interesting. He said it was for personal reasons. He said they'd offered him the job last Monday. He said his wife's father had just started chemotherapy, and despite knocking back that, he has confirmed that he is in the running to replace Paul Green at the Cowboys, because that is a little bit closer to home. And just today, I noticed that about 10 o'clock in the morning, a couple of hours ago, Blake Green has now left the Warriors. He's gone to the Knights for the rest of the season. I'm not really too upset about this, to be fair. Blake Green, the last 2 or 3 matches, has been playing a lot like Gene Nama used to, mate. Just average as far as I'm concerned. So he's off, and I'm a little bit. I'd like to see some more Chanel Harris-Tavita anyway, playing in the halves. He's our future in the halves, so he'll be playing there next week. The Warriors have we got Manly on Friday. So the Dragons lost to the Rabbits. The Tigers lost to the Warriors. The Broncos lost to the Sharks 20-26. Roosters beat the Titans. Cowboys lost to the Raiders. Sea Eagles lost to the Panthers. They got thrashed, actually. Panthers looking so good. Bulldogs 16, lost to the Eels 18, and the Storm beat the Knights. The Panthers sit on top, and the Warriors now on 8 points. We're 4 points out of the 8. The 8 is 12 points. And as I say, we've got Manly on Friday. So that's our league wrap.
Yes, well, the coaching story at the Warriors just gets more curious and curiouser. They've already told Jeff Tuvey that they're not interested in him. He seemed quite interested, and to the impartial observer, I would have thought he would have been quite a good grab for the Warriors, given his experience, both as a coach and a player.
Yeah, I'm not a big Jeff Tuvey fan, to be fair. He's an angry little man. I mean, there is a bit of a talk about the culture of the club. We've got a lot of Pacific Islanders, etc. I don't think he's got any connection to those. I just don't think that he's the right fit. The Walker brothers, I would have liked to have seen them. Apparently, they applied and they were turned down as well by the Warriors. Now, turning down the Warriors, they're turning down coaches. Who are we going to have next year? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you might. This isn't. I haven't read this anywhere. Haven't heard it anywhere. I'm just saying this from my own point of view. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Stacey Jones is coach the Warriors next year. I know it's not probably, he hasn't got any first grade experience or anything like that, but my God, that guy's a club icon, and if you can't play for Stacey, who can you play for? So Who knows? I mean, that's just
Yeah,
my.
well, if you watch a lot of the Australian media, and I'm sure you do, the
I
rumours
do.
about Wayne Bennett won't go
I
away.
know they won't go away, but he's not coming here, mate.
I
I
wouldn't
just
have
can't
thought so.
see. If he came here, I would be over the moon, but it's just not going to happen. And really, I mean, the reason I'd be over the moon is because he's the best coach in rugby league, not for the fact that he'd be building anything. Because that's the thing; he'd be gone in a couple of years. He's not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
The man's in his 70s now, isn't he? I mean, he's close to it if he's not.
Yeah.
So I would, he's like an instant fix. I think we need someone that's going to come here and is going to say that they're going to stay here. They say they're committed for 3, 4, 5 years, however long it takes, and they're in it for the long haul, and they've got a plan, and they systematically go about picking the right players for that plan, and that would be my way of doing it. But who knows? I guess we'll see, mate. Time will tell. Time will tell. That's the Warriors for you, mate. Who knows?
Exactly. Continuing on with the oval ball, but going to rugby union now.
Rugby union
on the weekend with the Crusaders. 32-19 winners over the Chiefs. Bit of a controversial call midway through the second half.
Bit of a controversial call.
Yeah. Well, the player's name was Quinton Strange, and it was a strange decision. I mean, I'm a diehard Crusaders supporter, as you know, but how they... Oh, it's crazy.
They all stuffed it up. He was standing there with 2 touch judges. He was talking to the guy upstairs, and they were all going, "Okay, well, that's fair enough." And you're like going, everyone was saying, "Knock on."
Yeah, it was a knock on.
It was. And then I Ben O'Keefe needs to go to a remedial physics classes, mate, because he doesn't know what a forward pass looks like either. Yeah. Honestly, rugby union used to be the sport where if it was forward, it would always be called forward. And rugby league used to be the one where if it was slightly forward, they'd let it go. Now it's the other way around. Rugby union seems to be, because is it anything to do with the fact that in rugby union they can go upstairs for the forward pass? So they sort of think, oh, we'll leave it and we'll check it later. Is that maybe what it is? I don't know, but come on, mate. Some of those are just watch where the guy is when he passes it and watch where the guy is when he receives the ball.
Yeah.
Some of those were horrible.
I know. And I mean, the ruling they go by, and I'm not saying that I agree with this, is if the ball comes backwards out of the hands, which maybe it is a good thing, and it floats forward due to momentum. Yeah, some of them can look really bad, and they get away with them. But yeah, there was a few there on Saturday night. I do feel sorry for the Chiefs, even being a Crusaders supporter, because
it's hard not to.
Even Sevu Reece, when he picked up that ball and dotted it over,
I know.
He didn't celebrate. He just ran back.
He nearly gave himself.
Here we go. It's going to be a scrum to the Chiefs, and then suddenly they actually talked themselves into awarding it, didn't they? But his palm was facing backwards, and he touched the ball, and it didn't appear to go. Oh, give me a break.
This almost goes back to our previous discussion about hyper-analysis of stuff,
Yeah.
You can just keep looking at it, and the more you look at it, Ian Smith almost got it right, didn't he? He said, the more they're looking at this quite a bit, the more they look at this, I'm not feeling good for the Chiefs, and it is. It's like the more you look at something, the more you see something, so just make a call. The thing is, if that's the case, if it comes out of the hand backwards, what you're going to encourage, I mean, it hasn't been too much so far, but what you can see is especially long passes. You can easily pass the ball back, but if it's a long pass of 20 meters or so, that ball could float 4 or 5 meters forward, So I cannot see how you can rule that as not a forward pass if it goes that far forward. It's just physics. Anyway,
Back prior to the video umpire, the referees, even if it came out of the hands backwards but floated forward, they would rule on it. They would call it a forward pass.
That's right. Call it as you said.
But now with the technology, as you say, everything's being slowed down to minuscule speeds. And sure, you're going to see something. And it seems to me that since the introduction of all these things in every sport, video umpires, VARs, whatever you like to call them, it's all about trying to prove something didn't happen rather than actually proving it actually did. You know, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a way to not award it. Really? Is that the point of the game?
No, and originally it was all to take away the shocker, the howler. Yeah. And now it's taking away the ones that are 50-50. And even worse, it's ruling against ones that we thought were tries or were wickets or whatever. No, it's just, yeah, they've got to look at the way. I mean, I'm all for video, adjudication, but it's got to be done right. You know, the VAR in the British football is perhaps the worst example of them getting it wrong, because
his armpit was offside.
That was just the craziest decision. But then there's even worse ones, like in the FA Cup final this weekend, where there was the second yellow card. The second yellow card, which definitely wasn't a yellow card, VAR can't do anything about it because they ruled that they can't do anything about a yellow card. They can only do it about a red card. Well, why? It's like you've got to, it's got to be the same across the board. And also when you're ruling on an offside line in VAR, if you're ruling, that toenail was offside, you minuscule amounts. How far can you take this?
Yeah.
It's either, you can say it's either in or out, but like you say, an armpit, a toenail or something like that, is it really gaining the advantage? When they wrote that rule, they didn't have any idea that they were going to be going to a video replay. So, maybe they just need to say, if the person is basically in line or something like that, it's not offside. Give the benefit of the doubt to the attacking player and be done with it, But
yeah, well,
I don't know,
Sky Sports in the UK, I saw a clip recently. It was after might have been the last game of the season, I think. And all the different pundits were asked the question, what are your views on VAR after the first full season? Just about every one of them, for a word, said, I like VAR, but they need to sort out the offsides and the handball rule. If you handle the ball accidentally in your own penalty area, it's not a penalty. But if you accidentally handle the ball leading up to a goal, it's ruled out. So here's the consistency.
There is none. There is absolutely no. It's VAR, and also get the referee to go to the sideline. If there's a thing where he's made a decision, we might overrule this, just get him to change it. Then also he's taking responsibility for that decision. The players can talk to him directly and have instead there's not someone upstairs making that decision. It's the person on the field. So they need to go to the sideline more often. They originally said, we don't want to do that because it'll slow down the game. Well, some of those VAR decisions are taking 4 or 5 minutes anyway. So the game's already been slowed down. So that will not slow down the game. Anyway, let's go.
Sounds like a topic for a whole podcast.
It does, eh? It does. Anyway, let's go back. The Highlanders also. The Highlanders lost to the Blues.
The Blues on Sunday down in Dunedin. Too strong for the Highlanders, winning 32-21. It was a pretty exciting game up until about midway through the second half, when the Blues sort of finally ran away with it. And then the Highlanders came at them again late in the game. So a good game, but it keeps the table interesting. At least there's still 2 teams or 3 teams that can actually win it. Unless if the Crusaders win this weekend against the Highlanders, that's it. It's all over. But at the moment, the Blues are in with a sniff and the Hurricanes are in with a sniff. Sadly, the Highlanders and the Chiefs are out of it now. And the Hurricanes need 2 wins with bonus points if the Crusaders lose both their games. And the Blues, if the Crusaders lose to the Highlanders, then the Blues just need to beat them in the final game of the season. So it could come down to it.
Blues have got the bye.
Sorry?
Blues have got the bye this week, so they'll be waiting for the Hurricanes to smash the Crusaders to bits, and then send their injury-weary team to Eden Park for the loss, and the Blues' majestic win of Super Rugby Aotearoa just to finish it all off and put a bow on it. That'd be brilliant. That'd be great. That'd be great finish.
That this week it's actually the Crusaders and Highlanders, not the Hurricanes.
Highlanders, sorry.
Crusaders
Highlanders.
have already lost to the Hurricanes, so and that's at Orange Theory Stadium. The Hurricanes are hosting the Chiefs on Saturday night. Across the Tasman, the Brumbies continued on their way, albeit closely, over the Reds, 22-20, and the Rebels had a good win over the Western Force, 25-20. And at the moment in Australia, the Brumbies lead the way, 4 from 4. They're 7 points ahead now of the Reds. Rebels are 1 point further back, and then the Waratahs and the Western Force are struggling. And obviously, we couldn't not talk about rugby without mentioning the sad loss of Andy Hayden that I alluded to a little bit earlier. 41 tests for the All Blacks, 120-odd games for the All Blacks. Of course, they were in the days when the All Blacks went on tour and played non-test matches. Just a huge monument of a man. Obviously was well known after his rugby days for becoming a sports agent and talent agent. Looked after the likes of Rachel Hunter most famously. And a big sad loss for Auckland Rugby with the passing of Andrew Maxwell Hayden.
Yeah, it was sad, mate. It was sad. He was a huge man, and for me, my abiding memory of Andy Hayden, and probably like a lot of people, and I know what I'm going to say, is diving out of that line out at Cardiff Arms Park. Even though it's often misrepresented that he was the reason that we won the game, because that wasn't the reason at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was the Welshman leaning on Frank Oliver, who also made more of his dive than probably Frank would normally do. But yeah, that was the reason that the ref gave the penalty. It had nothing to do with Hayden's best Greg Louganis moment.
And also the amount of games he played. I mean, he played over 100 games for the All Blacks. He played over 100 games for Auckland. He played probably close to that for Ponsonby. He played a lot of rugby, mate, and he was on the field for all of it, you know. Very, very strong. He was a huge man. I remember back in the day, he was about as big a man as you ever saw, wasn't he? He seemed enormous, you know. And then, like you say, off the field as well, he was a ruthless businessman. He never took a backward step off the field either. And rest in peace, Andy Hayden.
Yes, there was a great comment on the news last night by his former captain, Andy Dalton, about Andy Hayden, that Andy Hayden was the Players Association long before the Players Association was formed. He was very famous for fighting the rugby union when he wrote his book, Boots and All, and got special exemption by the rugby
for royalties.
Royalties. But yeah, he was all about the players, Andy Hayden, and
he was a professional before professional, wasn't he? Really?
Very much so.
Yeah. So very sad. Should we go to football, mate? Should we go to the round ball? Plenty happening in the round ball. After we spoke last week, Norwich, Watford, and Bournemouth relegated from the Premier League. Arsenal beat Chelsea in the FA Cup final in Wembley 2-1 in front of no one to go through to Europe after dodgy penalties, red cards, and VAR decisions. Chelsea, Man United into the Champions League with Liverpool and Man City. Arsenal, Tottenham, and Wolves into the Europa League. Bournemouth and Eddie Howe parted ways, which is kind of sad. What do you say about that?
It is sad, but it's probably to be expected. He looked like a beaten man pretty much the whole season at Bournemouth, and I think his time had come. He'd done the big rebuild when he first started there, got them up to the Premier League, held them there for 5 years, and I think bigger and better things await Eddie Howe. I think he's a very canny manager, and I'm sure he'll be snapped up by a Premier League club before the new season starts in about 5 weeks' time. But the big game is on tomorrow morning. The $64 million game, or however many millions of pounds it is, Brentford versus Fulham, to decide who is the third team to join Leeds and West Brom in the Premier League next year. So, again, to be played in front of an empty Wembley. But yeah, Brentford getting through after defeating Swansea, and Fulham managed to dispatch Cardiff, even though they lost.
Who you got in that one?
Oh, crikey. I'm probably going to go for Brentford. I think even though they had a bit of a bad patch towards the end of the season, I did watch the two legs of the semi-finals, and I thought they played some really good football. And their manager, Thomas Frank, seems to be very switched on and keen to get involved in a bit of biffo too.
Yeah, give me the ball. Give me the ball.
And I just think they might be just a little bit too strong for Fulham. Fulham looked okay in there. They beat Cardiff fairly easily in the first leg, 2-0, but then lost the second leg 2-1, even in going through.
Striker back, though, haven't the big striker back, I believe.
Mitrovic is possibly back. Yeah, they weren't too sure last time I looked. But, yeah, even with Mitrovic, I still think Brentford have probably got the nous and the just the playing skill, although when it comes to a one-off game, that sometimes doesn't matter. It can come down to a real battle of atrocity. So let's just see how that one goes.
And also, mate, Brentford, they've just moved out of their stadium, haven't they? That was the last game played at their stadium after 108 or 110 years or something, moving into a brand new stadium, never been in the Premier League, and could be making their debuting their new stadium in the Premier League. What an amazing story that would be.
It certainly would. And from the photos I've seen of the new stadium, it looks amazing. It's less than a mile away from Griffin Park, which is their, as you say, 108-year-old stadium. And, yeah, quite good that they managed to win that last game at Griffin Park to make tomorrow's playoff game. So it's going to be interesting. And, yeah, I'll be watching it. So could be a good game. Hopefully it's a good.
Tomorrow morning. Is that tomorrow morning, Macca? What
morning,
time?
Yep. About 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, I think it is.
Okay, nice breakfast. Okay. Also in the football, transfer roundabout is underway. It looks like Jadon Sancho might be heading to Man United. I hope not. Wellington Phoenix lost with a late goal to Western Sydney Wanderers after a very dodgy red card. I thought they were very unlucky. And coming up next week, it's kickoff in the Champions League on Friday. Juventus versus Lyon. I think that's this Friday. Juventus versus Lyon and Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Looking forward to that one. Yes, and on Saturday,
all the games are in. Are all the games in Portugal?
They're all over the place. No, yes, they are. Yes, Estadio Desporto Lisboa e Benfica and the Estadio José Alvalade. I don't know whether that's how you say it, but I gave it my best shot. All in Portugal. And on Saturday, Bayern versus Chelsea. Chelsea are down in that one already. I think they're gone. And Barcelona versus Napoli. And then the quarterfinals the week after, and then the final, the semis. They sort of rapidly straight after that, aren't they? And they're all one-legged. So that should be interesting.
Yes, the big football news, of course, was Mount Albert Ponsonby getting back to winning ways, beating Takapuna over at Taharoto 2-0 on Saturday to continue their unbeaten start to the Northern Regional League Division 1. So a good result for Big Al and PC and the boys. They're 4 points ahead of Metro and Waiheke just behind on 14. And this week's opponent's Glenfield, 6 points back on 13 points. So it's a big game this weekend for the Golden Blue when they come up against Glenfield Rovers, and that's on Friday night at Anderson Park. So if you're anywhere near Anderson Park and Mount Albert, get on down to the Albert. Tell them Goose sent you.
Beautiful. And in Birkenhead United news, they drew 2-2 with Manukau United, and they now sit third on the Men's Premier League behind Auckland United and Central United. Local sport as far as Northcote Tigers, they had their first loss of the season away to Mount Albert. The Lions 22-12, they lost their first game. Mount Albert now on top of the table on 13 points, followed by Point Chef Pirates and Northcote on 12. So we're only a point behind in the Fox Memorial. That's my local sports watch for you.
Jolly good.
Okay, time for a top five, mate.
Yes, time for the top five, and it was a fine selection by your good self for the top five sportswomen. Just a little prelude to my top five. I've named 5 sportswomen. They're not necessarily in the order 1 to 5. I just figured it was It was too hard to
hard.
say that one
Yep.
person was a better sports person than the other. So I've gone for that.
Okay.
And I've also gone for, looking at my list, there's 3 of what I would say my favourites, and just a couple who I just couldn't leave out because of their record and their
What they've done.
what they've done.
Okay. Well, let's start with your number 5, or the one that's 5 on your list, even though it might not necessarily be number 5.
Okay. Well, this fine young lady was born Stephanie Maria Graf, otherwise known as Steffi Graf. Won the Grand Slam, all 4 tournaments in 1988, along with an Olympic gold medal. So that was, I think they coined that the Golden Slam.
They did.
The only woman to ever win the Grand Slam, all 4 major titles in one year. She's had a career from 1982 to 1999 before retiring at the tender age of just 30, and
Crazy.
to marry Andre Agassi and get a family underway.
Yep.
She won 22 major titles in her career, 107 career titles. These are just singles, because she's also won a host of doubles titles, 10 Grand Slam doubles titles, and 4 doubles mixed Grand Slam titles. Just amazing. She won the Australian Open 4 times, the French Open 6 times, Wimbledon 7 times, and the US Open 5 times, and was inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame in 2004. Just an amazing career.
Yeah.
And a great player to watch. And we talked about tennis before and how we don't see the old rallies like they used to. And she could rally with the best of them, Steffi Graf. And came up against some pretty good players over her time as well. So did well to just put that record together. It was a pretty amazing record. So yeah, Steffi Graf is the first person on my top 5.
Yeah, that's a great one. She was in my honourable mentions. I loved Steffi, man. I loved the way she played tennis. Like you said, she was a good rallier, but there weren't too many long rallies when Steffi was playing with that forehand, because not too many could return it. She was a player and a half, man, and she bought, Martina bought the athleticism first, I think, and then Steffi just took it to the next level. Yeah. She was just incredible, and I don't want to be sexist or anything like that, but she had some great legs too, Macca. She had some great legs. I'm just admiring from afar. Right. My number five, I've put them in an order because that's what I do, I was asked to put them in an order, I'll do it. Number 5, Catherine Astrid Salamol Freeman. Who the hell is that? Kathy Freeman. Who can forget that iconic sight of her flying to victory in the spacesuit at the Sydney Olympics in 2000? Her personal best of 48.63 ranks her as the 8th fastest woman of all time. She became the Olympic champion for the 400 metres at the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney, and she lit the Olympic flame that year as well. She was the first Australian Indigenous person to become a Commonwealth Games gold medalist at the age of just 16 in 1990. And the year of 1994 was a breakthrough season. In 1994 Commonwealth Games in Canada, she won both the gold in the 200 and 400, and then she won the silver medal in the 1996 Olympics. And but then in the 2000 Olympics, of course, that capped off her fine career with that gold medal in the 400 meters. It was the perhaps the signature event at the Sydney Olympic Games, and it was just great to see an Indigenous woman do that for Australia. I just loved her, man. I love the way she ran and the way she carried herself on and off the track. Kathy Freeman, she's my number 5. I've lost you. I can't hear you, mate.
There we go. How does that better?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Yes, a fine choice, Kathy Freeman. A fine athlete, as you say, and the sight of her winning that gold medal at the Sydney Olympic Games, it pretty much brought the stadium down.
Yeah, it did. Who's your number 4?
Next one on my list is a downhill skier by the name of Lindsay Vonn. Just what an amazing skier she was. And I say was because she retired in 2019. She just had so many injuries over her career, and it just got the better of her, so it was time to give it away. She won 3 Olympic medals, 82 World Cup victories, 2 World Championship gold medals, and won 4 World Cup overall championships in consecutive years from 2008 to 2012. So just an amazing record for a downhill skier, especially one from what you would class as probably not one of the strongest winter sport countries in the world. Yes, the US do produce good winter sports people, but most of them you hear from Germany or Austria or around those Central European countries. So to be so strong and win so many titles from outside of Central Europe, I think it's an amazing feat. And if you've seen any videos of Lindsey Vonn doing her downhill runs, they just look absolutely flawless. And of course, a wee relationship with Tiger Woods came and went, I should say, a few years ago. So, yep, she's the second person in my top 5, Lindsey Vonn.
Good call, mate. Good call. I don't know a lot about skiing, but I know who Lindsey Vonn is, and yeah, like you say, I mean, yeah, she just seems flawless. Okay, my number 4. New Zealander on the list, and I've got a few New Zealanders coming up too for you, but my first New Zealander, number 4, Dame Yvette Winifred Corlett Williams. This is more of a historical one because I never actually saw her. I've seen footage of her, but when you go through what this woman did on the track and field, on the track and the field, this woman was an incredible athlete. She lived from 1929 till 2019, so she only died last year, and she was the first woman from New Zealand to win an Olympic gold medal. She held the world record in the women's long jump, and she was named our Athlete of the Century on the 100th anniversary of New Zealand athletics. She was left out of the New Zealand team for the 1948 Olympic Games in London, but she won the long jump title in the 1950 British Empire Games at Auckland. Her winning leap broke national Empire and British Empire records, and at the same competition, she also won a silver medal in the women's javelin. She won the gold medal on the long jump in the 1952 Olympics at Helsinki. Her winning distance was a new Olympic record and only 1 centimetre short of the world record set in 1943. And also at Helsinki, she finished in 6th place in the shot put and 10th in the discus. She also held national records: long jump, discus, shot put, javelin, and 80-metre hurdles. This woman was just a hell of an athlete. Yvette Williams is my number 4.
And came from a good family too. Brother Roy Williams, also an Olympic medalist and Commonwealth Games medalist too. So a fine athletic family, the Williams family. Next one on my list is very familiar to many New Zealanders, and I'm sure you've probably got her on your list as well. And it is Dame Valerie Adams.
She's my number 1.
Been throwing the shot put from 1998 to the present at international level. I'm just going to reel off a list of medals here: 2 Olympic golds, 1 silver, 4 World Championship golds, 1 silver, 4 World Indoor golds and 1 bronze, 3 Commonwealth Games golds and 2 silvers, a personal best of 21.24 metres in 2011 in Korea, and 6 times winner of the IAAF Diamond League. 2015, she was a nominee for the Laureus Sportswoman of the Year. She's won 7 Halberg Sportswoman of the Year titles and 3 times Halberg Supreme Award winner. Born in 1984, she's been to 6 Commonwealth Games and 4 Olympic Games. Oh boy,
wow.
Struggling to find anybody, not just in New Zealand, but anywhere in the world with with an honour sheet like that. And of course, another one from a fine sporting family with brother Stephen doing great things for the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA. So, Dame Valerie Adams. I didn't say, I said I wasn't going to.
Nah, put her on your list. Well, I mean, numbers.
I think you'd probably safely say that she's probably my number 1.
Yeah, mate, she's top of the diet for me, mate. She's an absolutely amazing woman, isn't she? What an athlete. Just a couple of other things that you didn't say. I mean, we could go on forever about her, but she was the first woman to win 4 consecutive individual titles at the IAAF Championships and she had a winning streak that extended to 56 wins at elite level competitions. But after Nadia Ostapchuk was ruled out, that actually increased to 95 consecutive wins at major tournaments. 95 wins in a row. That sort of says it all. Dame Valerie Adams is my number one. She is just, yeah, man, I just put her up there. She's, wow, every time. Just blows me away, that woman. So let's go to my number 3 then. Van Dyke. Eileen Van marvelous, Ian. I am so happy to see you on the Zoom call. I am so happy I made Adam's list. I am number 3 on his list. Eileen Van Dyke is my number 3. I love this woman. I don't love the sport she plays, but I love her. I think she's absolutely fantastic. World's most capped netballer. She played 145 times for New Zealand. Ridiculous amount. And 72 times also for South Africa. So she played over 200 times for Australia and New Zealand. And I was just looking at her stats when I was compiling this. This is ridiculous. She was also New Zealand Sportswoman of the Year in 2003 and a nominee in 2005. She became, in her 20-year international career, made her the most capped player of all time, 217 caps, and her international career finished with 5,917 goals from 6,572 shots, 91%. That is phenomenal, mate. Even though it's just like put the ball up and in, to get 91% from how many? 6,572 shots. That's a ridiculous feat. And loved her. Loved that woman. Eileen Van Dyke. Eileen! Oh, lovely.
Absolute classic. And certainly missed around netball circles, I'm sure. Now, although I think she still does a bit of commentating every now and then.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yes,
Yep.
next one on my list is another American. She is a United States footballer, and her name is Alex Morgan. And she's the co-captain of the US women's national team. In 2012, she had stats right up there with Irene Van Dyke. She scored 28 goals and got 21 assists in a season, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And overall for the US, she's played for the US women's national team 169 times and scored 107 goals. And, of course, has been part of 2 World Cup winning teams for the US women's national team. Just an incredible footballer. Doesn't get a lot of the headlines
no.
some of the other players from present and past have received. But, yeah, just an incredible record at football. Alex Morgan is a member of my top 5.
I like the way you said that. No, she's a handy footballer, all right, mate. She's a very, very handy footballer. Good call. So you've got my number 1, so I'm going to go to my number 2. My number 2, Sarah Elizabeth Ulmer. She is the first New Zealander to win an Olympic cycling gold medal. She won the 3-kilometre individual pursuit at the 2004 Athens Olympics and set a world record at the time as well. And at the 2000 Sydney Olympics, she qualified and came 4th. And that's what I love about Sarah Ulmer. She sort of progressed her career. She started, she was doing well. She made the Commonwealth Games, and then she just steadily progressed her career until 2002 at the Manchester Commonwealth Games, when she won a gold medal and was obviously going to be one of the favourites at the Olympic Games a couple of years later. And so then she went in as favourite to the Athens Olympics, and she broke the world record in qualifying with 3 minutes 26.4. Took almost 2 seconds off that time to win the gold in the final. Absolutely love her on the bike and off the bike. She's a great sport. Love Sarah Ulmer. She's my number 2.
Yep, she's a classic, Sarah Ulmer, and as you say, one of the superstars of women's cycling back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and just an absolute credit. And of course, in her early days, was coached by her dad, Gary Ulmer. Who did a great job in getting Sarah to where she was, where she got to in her sport. So, yep, a good choice for Sarah Ulmer. The last member of my top 5 women's sports persons goes to a athlete. The women's version of the decathlon. Of course, you don't just run; you've got to jump, throw, you name it. Well, 7 sports you've got to be good at. And the one
Yep.
I've picked is Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Just
Fair
an
enough.
incredible athlete.
Yep.
3 Olympic gold medals and 1 silver, as well as 2 bronze Olympic medals in other events as well. So pretty much your stereotypical all-round athlete. Competed at
Yep.
4 Olympic Games and just a top performer. And so Jackie Joyner-Kersee. I haven't got too much more information on her.
No. No.
I mean, those
She's an incredible.
statistics speak for themselves, really.
No, mate. She was an all-rounder athlete. Once again, from a very talented family. I think she was. I think her brother ran the Olympic. I think wasn't she related also to Florence Griffith Joyner in some ways, maybe through
By
marriage or
marriage,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, so I mean, she's an incredible athlete. Once again, I mean, I think Viet Williams would have made a great heptathlete back in her day as well, but of course they didn't have their heptathlons back then. So she would have been a great modern day heptathlete. But an all-round athlete. I reckon women should do the decathlon though, don't you?
Well, yeah, I mean they've increased lots of women's different races to the larger events, and so there's no reason why they can't do that for the decathlon as well. I think they'd be more than capable.
Well, it's okay. So you got any honourable mentions anyway?
Not really. I mean, you've mentioned pretty much the honourable mentions were my other New Zealand athletes. I guess the Eva Swindell sisters are right up there.
Georgina and Caroline. Yep. I got Eliza McCartney in the pole vault. Loved her at the last Olympics. She was incredible. Also, Lisa Carrington. Love Lisa Carrington, and she's a double Olympic gold medalist, of course. Barbara Kendall, who got the full set back in the day. Marion Jones. Now, I used to love Marion Jones. Of course, she was tainted by the drug scandal. But I'm not going to put her in my dishonourable mentions because at least she admitted to it, and she went to jail for it as well. But when she was, oh my gosh, almost the most athletic woman I think I've ever seen in my life when she was running, other than maybe Flojo, but we know she was on the juice as well. But Marion Jones, and also going back to netball, not my most favourite sport, but Temapara George, used to like watching her play. She would be one reason that I would turn on to watch the netball. She's the way she used to play. Used to like Temapara George.
I think just a couple of others. The Williams sisters in tennis.
No, just honourable mentions. Williams. I don't mind Venus. Serena though, she's just a brat, mate. Absolutely. Look, no problem. She's a champion, but she's just a brat, mate. She's just not for me. It's a bit like saying Ronaldo is one of my favourite footballers. Never.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I just, they're right up there.
They are. Don't say Sharapova either.
No, I'm not.
That's all you need to know about Sharapova. And I also had Florence Griffith Joyner as my dishonourable mention as well.
Very good. Oh, well, let's see how our respective wives got on over the weekend.
Okay, mate. When we picked up last week, where were the ladies sitting? I think Michelle was on 4, and Charisse had gone up to 6. So here Charisse had 7, Michelle had 4 before we started this week. So over the week that we had the Tigers versus the Warriors was one of the games. Charisse chose Tigers.
As did Michelle.
Ah!
No faith in the Warriors by Michelle.
I was disappointed with Charisse as well. She just handed me the piece of paper very meekly. Manly versus Penrith.
Yes, Michelle was right on this one. She went for the Penrith Panthers, so she picks up a point.
Done.
Yep.
Charisse got Manly, so she's out of the money there. 1 from 2 for Michelle. The Chiefs versus the Crusaders. This will be interesting.
Yes, well, living in the house of a mad Crusaders fan, Michelle was very brave and went for her hometown Chiefs. A silly call.
Oh, beautiful. Charisse went for the Crusaders. So. Our woman, hey? Oh, what are they doing? Highlanders versus the Blues.
Michelle decided to go for the home team this week, so she went for the Highlanders.
Oh, poor Michelle. So Charisse went for the Blues. So they're 2 from 2, I think, here. They're doing okay.
No, Michelle's only one from one.
One from God, Michelle's doing terribly.
One from
Sorry,
4 so far.
1 from 4, and Sharice is 2 from 4. Let's see if they can do any better with the football. Western Sydney Wanderers versus the Wellington Phoenix. Sharice had a draw, and then she scrubbed that out, and she went for the Western Sydney Wanderers. So she got that one.
Let's just say Michelle 1 for 5.
Okay, so Michelle has 5, and Sharice now, she got 3, so Sharice now has 10. So Michelle's going to have to get all 5, and Sharice is going to have to get all of them wrong for her to win next week. The final round next week of our Wives Pies: Hurricanes versus Chiefs, Crusaders versus Highlanders, the Manly Sea Eagles versus the Warriors. I've gone for 2 football games to finish: Manchester City versus Real Madrid, and the Wellington Phoenix versus the Brisbane Roar. Okay,
well,
those are the ones to finish.
Suggest to me after seeing how poorly she did over the weekend that perhaps we should start a TAB account, and once she's made her picks, reverse them and see how much money we won.
She's a very smart woman. But see, we've been in this. We've got more skin in this game. We know that seems all well and good, but as soon as you start doing that, her picks will start coming in, won't they? Exactly. So it's just the way it always works. Sometimes you don't care, they come in, you know. All right, I think we've just about covered everything, haven't we, mate? I've just got one last thing to say.
Here we go.
You ready for it? For the past few months off the field and the past few weeks on it, New Zealand Warriors have struggled and lurched from one bad result to another. Being the only New Zealand team in the comp, the COVID crisis has thrown up many unique and varied challenges that the other teams have not had to deal with. Travel, accommodation, quarantine, just to start, and then dealing with issues such as training grounds, absence of family, players' mental and physical health. They've tested the team and its Kiwi fans to the absolute limits. Yet the Warriors have done everything asked of them by the NRL and dealt with a coach sacking amongst the way, and now another coach who says he doesn't want the job, and still have players that have managed to pick up some reasonable results on the field while all this is going on. The Warriors have already put many of things working against them. Sorry, the Warriors already have many things working against them, being the only Kiwi team in an Aussie comp. But putting aside the fact they don't always get the rub of the green by the officials on the field and the challenge of recruiting of top players and coaching talent off the field, at least we have the security of the salary cap to even things up. Or so we thought. The base salary cap for the NRL in 2020 stands at $9.5 million for the top 30 players. And while some clubs, like the Warriors, often have a bit of space under the cap due to the lack of stars, others like the Storm and the Roosters seem to puzzlingly push the cap to the limit every year. And here's where things get even more murky. It appears now that the Roosters still have $400,000 to spend on the cap, despite having stars like the Morris brothers, James Tedesco, Dally medalist Luke Carey, New South Wales captain Boyd Cordner, and many, many more obviously highly paid stars. And so when, because of the global pandemic, more quality players came onto the market from overseas cancelled comps, including one Mr. Sonny Bill Williams, the top brass at the NRL moved heaven and earth to bring them back to the comp to play with not the beleaguered team of his homeland, but to one of the high flyers in the comp who are already laden with talent. The phrase, never give a sucker an even break, comes to mind. I've even heard commentators across the Tasman saying, this is just great for the game that Sonny Bill Williams is back and who cares who he plays for? Well, as Warriors fans, let's just wake up right now and smell the coffee. We may have been responsible for our own demise at times, but we will never get a helping hand from the NRL, regardless of what we do to help or promote the sport and the NRL as a product. They are only ever going to serve their own self-interest. They want us in the comp for the revenue we bring in from overseas and from the expats in Australia, but they're not interested in us actually succeeding, and they will do what they can to see that we don't. It's almost like we're playing against the opposition each week and the sport itself as well. So where can we go from here? Well, let's start by playing the game off the field as the other teams do. Let's get more sneaky with the salary cap. Let's think of more inventive ways we can seduce quality individuals to the club, whether it be by brown paper bags, a uniquely Kiwi style of attractive rugby league, or even selling the good old Kiwi lifestyle as we used to, and work towards our own success and our own values and culture, because the NRL ain't going to help build it for us.
Quite right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mate. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I've just read today in another article that another player has gone to the Storm. Another one of those champion guys from the Toronto Wolfpack has gone to the Storm. So the Storm have got money left in the cap as well. And they've just picked up a premiership winner from the Sharks. I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head, from 2014, and he's now going to play for the Storm. So they're not at their limit. I'm sorry, why do you bother having a salary cap? I mean, so we've just got to play by their rules.
They need to include a trophy at the end of the season for the Accountant of the Year.
Well, we know the Roosters and the Storm will win that one every bloody year, mate. They will.
Exactly.
It's just not on, you know. It's just they're just playing by different rules, and
it is. It is.
It's just so heartbreaking as a, you know, when we've just got so little talent and we're playing to the top of it, and there's teams like the Roosters and the Storm that just seem to have so much and can attract just so much more, and it doesn't seem to matter. And it pisses me off. Anyway,
on that huge bombshell.
It's off my chest now. It's off my chest. I can breathe.
Yes, quite right. Well said. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Hot Air Sports Podcast. So it's good afternoon from me.
And it's good afternoon from him. If I can distill my beating heart, I will be back next week. Good night.
Here's hoping.